Welcome back to Take a Break. I'm Tim Stenevec in New York. Well, Trump's pandemic woes are hitting hardest in his own backyard. One of the Trump organization's biggest cash cows, the Trump National Doral, is now among the properties suffering the most from the COVID-19 pandemic. Here to discuss is Bloomberg News' reporter covering the Trump family business, Sophie Alexander, live in San Francisco. Hey, Sophie, thanks so much for joining. Why does this property, the Trump Doral, hold particular importance to the Trump family?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's one of its biggest moneymakers. On the disclosure that Trump has to file for having been in office, you can see that Doral is by far the biggest revenue that he lists. Last year it was $44.2 million, which is about $20 million more than Mar-a-Lago, which is the property you usually think of when you think of Trump in Florida. And then second of all, it's a really important property because they have $125 million of debt coming due in 2023, and they owe that money to a bank, Deutsche Bank, that has said it will no longer work with him.
Right, so it's not like he can work with Deutsche Bank to refinance that debt at a lower interest rate or pay it back over a longer period of time. So what happens if the former president can't pay the $125 million in loans that are due in 2 years?
Yeah, so this loan is personally guaranteed, which means that if the Trump organization were to have to sell Trump Doral and it was no longer worth $125 million, then whatever the difference is, Trump has to make up himself. He owes that money to the bank.
How are things at the Trump Doral right now?
Well, it is still a big moneymaker, but things have declined since Trump first entered the presidency. In his first year, or the year before he entered office, the club was making about $116 million in 15 and a half months, or about $90 million annually. And when he left office, because of the pandemic, but it also seems like there was a decline in revenue as a result of the Trump brand taking a hit. When he left office, that figure was only $44 million, as I mentioned earlier. So it's definitely taken a hit, but it is still making quite a bit of money. They have 4 golf courses, and golf is sort of having a renaissance right now during the pandemic because it's an outdoor sport you can play. You know, the club's in Florida, the weather's good, and it's been seeing business there.
You spoke to Eric Trump, who took over for the former president when he became president, he along with his brother Don Jr. What did Eric Trump tell you?
He said they're not really worried that Doral is just such a valuable property and that they, are just happy with the purchase they have. He wouldn't comment much on more on that or about what the future plans were for the business, but he said that the Trump organization is proud of it and that it's an invaluable property to the organization. So
beyond the issues that are facing Trump Doral, I wonder how the whole Trump brand has taken a hit in 2021 following the January 6th insurrection. And of course, former President Trump is set to be tried in the Senate starting tomorrow.
That's right. So from the beginning, when he first entered office in 2016, already the brand was taking a hit. Buildings in New York looked to take his name off the front. And we're sort of seeing that happen again after January 6th. People are renewing those conversations. Another New York building is looking to take his name down. And the board of Palm Beach residents, an apartment building, is also decided to do the same thing. The board voted unanimously to remove the Trump name from the Trump Plaza in Palm Beach. So
very briefly, where does the Trump brand go from here, Sophie?
That's a good question. That's sort of what everyone's waiting to see because, they could continue to do real estate, which is their bread and butter. But a lot of people have wondered whether Trump will try to start his own media organization, news channel, even a newsletter. We'll have to wait and see.
Bloomberg's Sophie Alexander. Sophie, it's a fantastic report. Thanks so much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.